think if we're going to talk about hair from Black and brown people, I think we need to include a very large section of people who wear wigs or extensions. And how people arrive at that comes from varying points of view. Um, I felt that it was important to have something that sort of signifies the wearing of wigs because it has become part of my life, my everyday, and hasn't always been. And I think in the past, I would have thought about the idea of wearing wigs as something sometimes comical, and why would you? And maybe is it not a bit shameful? And all the sort of connotations around wigs and the wearing of, we know the Cockney rhyming slang of syrup of figs, wigs, and all that sort of starts to sum up the comical aspect of it. But for me, it was important because with so many people wearing wigs, and we know how big the hair extension industry is, I think it was important to signify it. From a personal point of view, I have had all manners of hairstyles from, you know, cornrows to plaits to extensions. I've tried it all. I've even had the threaded hair process that, is worn on the continent of Africa, and I'm very good at doing it. But I just got to a point where I no longer wanted to, as they would say, mess with my own hair. And I found that the first time I tried a really good wig, I just thought, this is great. I can really have lots of different identities of myself and not have to put my own personal hair into torture mode. I've had hair relaxed where it wasn't done properly, and as I washed my hair, I could see it all floating away in the basin. And I just didn't want to do that. But I also wanted to, as a busy mom at the time I started wearing wigs, to be able to just get out of that house really quickly. Um, and the better wigs have got and the more popular it's become, it means that I now have a variety of looks. And I see it very much as part of my dressing up to exit the house, to take part in the world. And in a way, I see it as an alter ego as well. And it's a lovely way for me to separate myself from the external world. So when I'm at home, I don't wear wigs at all. And I am just me. The wigs, I think, on lots of different levels, complete a look because I am in fashion. And so for me, the look is important. But it also means that I can be whoever I want to be. So for me, there's a freedom in wearing wigs, an absolute freedom. And I think that it's acceptable because as I accept anyone who wants to wear their hair however they want to, I think people should accept if people want to wear wigs and extensions, that's their right. I think we've got to a point where we should have the right to present as we want to present. And I suppose what we would want to say that the history of adorning our heads is part of Black heritage. The wig and the extending bit, I think, started to evolve from my viewpoint, watching my mother, who in the 60s would have the wig sometimes to wear, as did the Supremes and all the other sort of popular Black women of the time. So you had this opportunity to wear a variety of things. So, but if we go further back, there was the idea of extending, but it would not necessarily have been human hair or hair. It would be woven into the plaits, it would be woven into the threaded hair. So this idea of adorning our crown is part of Black heritage, I feel. Then the idea of wearing wigs, I think, comes into play when for so long there were not the possibility of having your hair done without having something torturous done to it. So it became maybe sometimes easier that if you wanted your hair to appear straighter, it was easier to put a wig on than possibly having your scalp burnt when you're having it pressed. or putting yourself through chemical treatments that, well, as we now know, could have been quite poisonous to our scalps. So there's a whole mix of things going on in terms of how black hair has been cared for. And I just didn't want to put myself through that anymore. In some ways, you almost slightly think that it's an odd secret, but that sort of acceptance and to share that you wear wigs. And then the variety, and I could have gone on because I hadn't realized how many wigs I actually had. It's quite a collection. Maybe I am a kleptomaniac in a way. So it was, looking at them, I was sort of thinking, I've come a long way in being able to open myself up to showing the variety of identities that I can pick up, literally pick up and plonk on my head. So it's just the surprise in that I've done it. And is that really me? But yes, it is. And just getting to a state of mind to say, actually, in doing this, I am sharing what lots of other women do. And I quite liked that idea. It's funny saying that because prior to wearing wigs, I was having the sewn in extensions, but I started to find that my hair was getting so big that I actually started chopping my hair to allow it to not look raised. But I've now realized that that was slight madness, and that actually wearing a wig, I could actually do my hair in a particular way that didn't raise the wig. And when I've actually taken a photo of my own natural hair, and I have shared it a couple of times, people are surprised that I have this long bob underneath. But and I know my children always say, come on, you're an activist, show the real hair. And they always make me laugh. As soon as I pull the wig off, they go, oh, here's the activist, she's back in the house. So I think they're quite funny about it. But yes, it is a strange one. But if something makes you feel empowered, and it does me, it really kind of has made me feel really able to portray and present myself, then all power to you if that's what works for you. And it's a weird thing to say that wigs have become part of my identity. And I think if I didn't have a wig and I went out, people would still be looking for me. Where is she? And they wouldn't know necessarily it was me. So it is part of my identity. So those images really are speaking to who I am in this external world. And where we have this whole idea that we have to code switch, etc., maybe that's part of it. I'm code switching when I put my wig on and becoming somebody else, but it's somebody else I've chosen to be, and I wasn't forced to be it. I have chosen it. And not all code switching is for the negative if it actually empowers you to get to where you want to be. And I think that's really important. So I know there are people who are so caught up in having that wig not looking like it's not a wig. And I sort of think, come on, it is a wig, but you look good. And I've had women come up to me. In fact, one woman came up to me and she sort of came very close to me and she said, can I just say you look great in that wig? Where did you get it from? I burst out laughing and I told her, because I don't think it's a secret to be kept to yourself. And if you look good in it and somebody wants to kind of replicate it, isn't that fabulous? And why not? So I never pretend. And I remember sharing with with a student who had childhood alopecia, lost all her hair, and then had what I would call a medicated wig for some time. And then somebody else spoke to her about all the fun wigs out there, and that, yes, you could actually wear those. So they put the wig on, and one day in conversation, and she was talking about how awful people had been when she was younger about the wigs, etc. And I said to her, "Oh, well, I wear wigs all the time." Well, her eyes were wide open, and she said, "Do you wear wigs?" And I said, "Yes, this is a wig." She went, "Oh my God." And we had a fun half hour chatting about wigs. And she said she'd never been in a space where she could just talk about wigs, and we were all joining in, and it was such a fun time for her. And that young woman came in lots of different wigs in months to come. So in sharing, sometimes you don't know that you're actually creating a beautiful space for somebody else. So there are lots of different reasons for wig wearing, and it shouldn't be shirt and ruined and made to feel that it's something wrong. You know, it's something that can be actually very useful in really supporting somebody and yourself, if that's what it takes to make you feel you can be empowered and ready to take anything on.